This is the continuation of the previous video. If an animal experiences success in its fights, then it will tend to invoke them, and if the animal experiences defeat, it will tend to avoid fighting. The establishment of a territory involves both attack and escape behavior, and if an animal meets its neighbor at the boundary between their territories, both attack and escape tendencies are probably aroused, and from the basis of agonistic situation or conflict situation. In other words, agonistic behavior is also used to cover all the difficult types of response seen in fighting and territorial behavior generally. Some types of agonistic behavior have been modified by evolution into displays, serving both to intimidate a rival and to reduce actual fighting to a minimum. One of such displays is threat. Threat displays shall be described in detail ahead. Now let's learn about the appetitive and consummatory phases of aggression. If an animal is able to improve its status in life, that is, win a territory, rise in rank, or capture a group of females from a rival without being badly hurt or stressed in the process, then the tendency to perform such behavior in future is increased. If the attempt fails and the animal is hurt or frightened in the process, then repeating an attempt in near future is reduced. From the aforesaid characteristics, it becomes apparent that success makes aggression an appetitive and failure an aversion or dislike or avoidance. There is no doubt that under some conditions, aggressive behavior is reinforcing. An aroused animal will perform behavior giving it the opportunity to respond aggressively. In other words, we may say that being able to win a fight appears to be rewarding for an animal since it will perform complicated tasks in order to be able to display aggressively towards an antagonist. For example, Siamese fighting fish will swim mazes or perform complicated swimming patterns through a series of rings suspended in the aquarium so as to gain sight of a model of a male fighting fish to which they can display aggressiveness. Similarly, male sticklebacks quickly learn to bite at the tip of a glass rod which is used to remove a partition between its fish's aquarium and an adjacent one in which the rival male is kept. Above mentioned examples are thus the evidence in support of the hypothesis that aggressive display without being hurt or stressed is a rewarding experience and the animals show true appetence for the action. What are the social aspects of aggression? One of the most essential prerequisites for a social mode of life is the ability to subordinate oneself. In all the animal societies, a system of dominance is usually seen, which is based on the relative strength of their members. So, to say, there is a rank order. The strongest animal in the group or leader is called as the alpha male, followed by the next strongest, the beta animal, and so on, down to the lowest ranking individual, which is called omega. These ranks are determined by property protective fights. The property protected here is the animal's status in the society. The higher the rank, the freer the access to valuable resources, food, meat, etc., just like the stronger the individual, the better the territory or the quality of resources available. A low intensity threat posture is necessary to determine ownership of an available resource, the weaker or low ranking animal giving up its claim to it without the situation developing into a fight. This balance has reached through learning, weaker ones having experienced that the higher ranking animals are stronger than they are. This experience reduces the number of fights taking place within a society. The society is therefore of importance in ensuring the survival of juveniles, eliminating extreme competition during development. Within a society, the rank is maintained by a balance between the rewarding experience of winning a fight and the punishing one of losing a fight. In this case, property protective aggression acts as a positive social force which stabilizes the community, ensuring maximum benefits for the individuals according to the age and sex. Aggression as a social behavior pattern may have immediate negative effects from a point of view of an individual within the community, but in the long run, its effects are positive for the community as a whole. Now we are going to learn about the first one, that is the threat. This behavior is a form of communication that usually occurs in situations involving mild aggression or conflict between aggression and fear. For example, an animal may maintain its social dominance by threatening almost as a matter of routine when it stops near a subordinate. The male stickleback is usually very aggressive near its nest but tends to be increasingly fearful as it approaches the boundary of its own territory. It in conflicts with neighbors, the fish typically adopts a head down threat posture when the tendency to attack and escape are in equilibrium. Two neighboring black backed gulls may approach one another but do not fight, rather adopt forced looking posture and may stand facing its rival or turn sideways and walk parallel to each other. In another similar situation, two male cichlid fish slow down as they approach each other with their gill covers fully raised. These are examples exhibit the threat, the result of a conflict between attack and escape tendencies. The ritualization of attack and of conflict behavior is a common form of threat. Displays have also evolved mainly as a means of communication. According to Charles Darwin, the display is an expression of emotion. The study of displays, facial expressions, vocalizations, and coloration of animals has helped in understanding the motivation in animals. For example, the balance between fear and aggression in cats can be determined both from body posture and facial expression. Now we can see the threat displays. As stated earlier, the male stickleback is highly aggressive. If the intruder is another male, then the aggression is mixed with fear, particularly near the boundary of the territory. And if the intruder is a female, the male will show conflicting tendencies towards aggression and courtship or ritualization. A black-headed gull has a ritualized mating ceremony developed during pair formation. When a male bird on the ground sees the female flying towards him, it adopts an oblique posture and utters a long call. The female then alights next to him and both adopted a forward posture, placing themselves parallel to each other. Afterwards, they change suddenly to an upright posture and face away from each other. Oblique display of black-headed gull. Forward display by a pair of black-headed gulls placing themselves parallel to each other, and upright posture and facing away from each other during greeting ceremony of the black-headed gull. Upright posture of the herring gull. These are the threat displays. The motivation behind this type of displays can be analyzed for studying the threat posture near the boundaries in territorial animals where there will be balance between the tendency to attack and flee from a rival. Studying displays accompanied by incipient attack and flight movements or threat displays. Studying the behavior occurring before and after the display. Correcting behavior of the black-backed gull is followed by amicable behavior, but aggression is usually observed when two males meet. If a display is preceded or followed by an apparent aggression, it is likely to be a threat display. Studying the nature of the display, some postures are composed of elements of recognizable behavior patterns, as in case of upright posture of the herring gull or black-backed gulls. The raising of the wing carpels is characteristic of attack by delivering wing beats with the folded wing. The upright neck with a downward pointing beak is an attempt to peck down at their opponent, which is launching an attack. However, stretched neck, bill upward, wings pressed close into flanks, carpals are completely hidden, and hesitant walking movements are displays of fearful behavior preparatory to taking off. The upright posture is generally regarded as threat display. Studying the behavior on comparative basis, most of the gulls were simultaneously aggressive and frightened, adopt a threat posture similar to that of herring gull, neck held vertical and bill pointing downwards, and wing carpals are held away from the body and the feathers are sleeked, as in frightened birds. Exposed carpals indicate readiness to fly away, fear, or to beat an opponent with the wing, which shows aggression. Carpal exposure is quite common in the aggressive posture of many species, which use wing beating during fighting. In fact, the upright threat posture can take on a range of forms which reflect slight changes in the levels of the underlying attack and escape tendencies. Three gradations of the upright posture are recognized in the herring gull: aggressive, intimidated, and anxiety upright, respectively, as they will show increased elements of escape. Threat sometimes is a form of intention movements of attack. In many mammals, the opening of mouth that precedes biting have evolved into a ritualized baring of the teeth is a characteristic threat. The ritualization of attack and of conflict behavior is a common form of threat. Threat displays often involve ritualization of morphological features such as enlarged claws of fiddler crabs, vibration of tail end in many snakes, rattling device in the rattlesnake, and the modified sound producing organs in the form of tail spines in porcupines. Hissing threat sounds occur in many vertebrates and can be regarded as a ritualized form of breathing. Conclusively, the main function of threat is to keep rivals at a distance without undue expenditure of energy and risk of injury. Now let's learn what are the threat signals. Threat postures are a primary form of language by which simple information on the motivation of the displaying animal is passed on to others. Such displays are often called social signals. For example, Stokes observed the communication role of threat in the agonistic behavior of blue tits or birds. He observed them disputing over food in winter and recorded various elements in their threat postures involving beak, crest, body feathers, wings, tail, and orientation of body. He stated that they all reflect both tendencies of attack and escape. Particular combination of elements were quite common and provided a reliable prediction of a bird's subsequent behavior. Thus, blue tits, which faced their rivals with raised crests, subsequently showed escape in 94% of cases, and they never intended to attack. On the other hand, attack was very difficult to be predicted. If a bird B1 adopted an attacking combination of elements, it significantly increased the frequency of escaping of rival B2. If B1 adopted an escape combination, B2's frequency of attack did not rise but it intent to ignore. It means that B1's posture did not constitute a real threat to its position at the feeding dish. This is called as the glaucous winged gull. Dummies mounted in various threat postures and placed in a pair's territory. They found that postures which were found to be more aggressive were attacked less often, meaning thereby that a posture conveyed its aggressive content to the territory owner. They also found that the level of the head above the ground was important in conveying aggression. The lower the head, the more aggressive the posture. The dummies in upright posture were attacked with least hesitation and those in chucking posture representing the highest levels of conflicting attack and escape with most reluctance. When the loudspeaker was used to emit calls from dummies, the rhythmic call was accompanies the chucking posture was most effective in increasing the latency of attack upon all dummies, whatever be the posture. So the choking call also functions as highly aggressive signal.